reading this morning is from John chapter 6, verses 1 through 14. And as you already know, we're talking about the bread and fishes. After this, Jesus went to the other side of the Sea of Galilee, also called the Sea of Tiberias. A large crowd followed him because they saw the sign that he was doing for the sick. Jesus went up the mountain and sat down there with his disciples. Now the Passover, the feast of the Jews, was near. When he looked up and saw the large crowd coming towards him, Jesus said to Philip, "Where are we to buy bread for all of these people to eat?" He said this to test him, for he already knew what he was going to do. Philip answered, 6 months' wages would not buy enough bread for each of them to get a little. Disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, said to him, there is a boy here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. But what are they among so many people? Jesus said, make the people sit down. Now there was a great deal of grass in the place, so they sat down, about 5,000 in all. Then Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed them to those who were seated. So also the fish, as much as they wanted. When they were satisfied, he told his disciples, gather up the fragments left over, that nothing may be lost. So they gathered them up, and from the fragments of the 5 barley loaves left, for those who had already eaten, they filled 12 baskets. When the people saw the sign that he had done, they began to say, this is indeed the prophet who has come into the world. Praise God for the word of God for everyone.
Thanks be to God. Hallelujah. So I had a plan for what I was going to speak on today. Oops, I forgot. So I had a plan. Can you hear me? Yes. Okay. And of course, yesterday, I go to a clergy meeting, something happens, and there's that voice going, you're not talking about that anymore. I feel that quite often I will prepare a message, something will happen, and it's God saying, no, this is where I want you to go with this. We have all heard this story many, many times. Contextually, it could be said to be a foreshadowing of the Last Supper. Jesus breaking the bread, providing the bread, handing out the bread. But what else is this story to us? What else is this story in the sense of us as individuals, as us as a church? If you place yourself in this story, what is your role? Yesterday at my clergy meeting, we were doing the usual talking about somebody's process, talking about case studies, concerns in our congregations. And one of the other members shared a concern. And the question that kept coming up is, what is my role? What am I to do here? So I started thinking about this story, and it kept coming back to me. You are a disciple of Jesus Christ. You are the bread of Christ. I was like, well, what does that mean? Well, I think if we look at the disciple piece, our role is to go out into the world. We are meant to be a bridge between Christ and those who may not have a relationship with him, those who may not know him. We are a bridge between those who do not know what love is, yet need it so desperately. Our paths are not going to look the same. How we construct our bridges will not look the same. Maybe I'll build a bridge out of brick. Maybe you'll build a bridge out of wood. That doesn't matter. The important piece is within this story, that is our role. The disciples were bringing the bread to the people. They were the bridge between those people and Christ and saying, come, meet this man. You've heard the stories. You've listened to the stories. Now see them. Build a relationship with this man. But then there's the context of us as bread. What does that mean? We take communion. We take the bread of life. We share in that table with Christ. But what does that mean to bring that bread out into the world? Well, in our scripture reading today, you heard Jesus say, gather up the fragments. Leave nothing behind. We are the bread. We are those fragments in the world. And there's two things for us to consider. As the bread, we are bringing life to those around us. We are feeding them, as I told the children. It's not always about the physical hunger, going out and serving. Once a month, the youth group goes to work with Food for Children up in Manchester. And I go with them, my daughter's there, we bring friends, we pack up the food, we get everything prepped, and we hand people the food. We are physically feeding them. But are we feeding their souls? And that's where those fragments come in. There are so many fragments. People are broken today in this world. Yes, we're feeding them physically, but are we picking up those fragments and making sure that nothing is left behind? Our role as disciples is to make sure that, yes, we're giving you this physical food, but I'm going to give you something to nourish your soul. Maybe you're not going to quote a scripture at them. Maybe you're not even going to extend an invitation to church. But what if you take someone's hand and just say, hello, my name's Kelly, how are you today? What if that person normally is on the street, people walking by, nobody says that. You just fed them and said, I see you. You are known. You are loved. I am here as the hands and feet of Christ, and I am telling you that you are loved. And we're not going to leave those fragments behind. I feel as though sometimes in today's world there's so much going on. There are so many in need. And we're seeking to help. We're seeking to nourish them. But we're nourishing them based upon physical need. We're nourishing them based upon our fear of what we think we should do, based upon the perspective of our world, not based upon what Jesus is telling us. In feeding others and feeding the soul of someone in need, you're actually feeding yourself as well. In the work that I do community-based work in Lowell and Lawrence, Massachusetts. My focal point is work with moms struggling with substances, moms who are giving birth to babies who are exposed to these substances. If I walked in there and I said, here you go, I'm going to teach you how to read the cues of your baby. You know how to read your baby now. If her skin changes color, if she starts breathing fast, she's stressed. So you just want to wrap her up in a blanket and take her out into the hall and calm her down. I've given her something. I fed her. Technically, I gave her something she can use. I gave her something she can do. But have I truly fed her in the way that Christ would want me to feed her? Am I feeding myself? But if I walk into that room and I say, hi, I'm here to work with you and your baby, and instead watch mom pick the child up and hold her close. If instead I say, oh, do you look at how she just calmed down. You simply touched her and she relaxed. Did you see that? That's amazing. You did that. That's feeding that mother's soul. Giving her a handout, telling her, oh, do A, B, and C, that's not feeding her. I just fed her and said, you are worthy. You are meant to be, you know what you're doing. You're meant to be with this child right now. That's feeding her soul. Showing her that I'm here for you. I love you. Am I going to say I love you? No. But I'm going to work with her and reach out to her and give her that affirmation that, yes, it's okay. You are doing the right thing. And that's what our jobs as disciples really are, is going out there and spreading the love. We've been fed. If we're at a point where we're ready to go forth and share that bread, that's what we need to do. That's how we make a difference in the world. One person may only change one person's life. But in making a point to be present in that one person's life, you have now set the stage for that person to go forth and feed somebody else. And then that person will feed another. We can't solely rely on the physical feeding of the food that we have from the grocery store, the food that we have on our tables. We need to be looking at, what is it? What are those fragments that Jesus said, don't leave those behind? Because it's not just the loaf, it's the crumbs that surround us. Ultimately, it's our job to remember that no fragment was left behind. We were not left behind. Jesus said, nope, don't forget that. Get that piece. She belongs to me. I need him with me. They are mine. Regardless of a full loaf, regardless of crumbs on the ground. No. No one is left behind. Everyone is loved. Everyone will be fed. We will not run out. Sure, we only have 5 loaves. No, there is enough for everyone. And that is where we're meant to go. That is the model that we're meant to live off of, is to remember that once we were all fragments. Maybe some of us still are. We're all broken at some point. And it's that brokenness that brings us together. It's the brokenness that Patsy Claremont, one of my favorite authors, says that God utilizes cracked pots because it's the cracks that allow the light to get in. We were all fragmented at one point, and we're being put back together. So it's our turn to find other fragments and do what we can. Maybe we can't clean them all, pick them all up. Maybe we will miss a few. But if we even are able to scoop up 1 or 2, we have made a difference. And it's that difference that is going to make a change in a world that needs more love.